Hello everybody and welcome back. We're going to be looking at the France campaign that we did on Europa Universalis 4. This started off very much as like a playthrough for complete beginners. We were doing a lot of heavy commentary, and for the first, I'd say 10 to 20 episodes, we did a good job. We explained everything. We looked at things from a storytelling perspective, from a role-playing perspective, very much sort of a question and answer style of learning and teaching. We didn't look at anything that we had no context to look at. We didn't go looking for something that we had no questions about. We only looked at like what was right in front of us, you know. We started off by looking at who our possible allies are. And it turns out that in this campaign, Castile really liked us. So we're like, okay, let's let's ally Castile, not rival them. Of course, we are rivaled with England because of the they have a lot of our land, right? And we're coming out of the 100 Years' War historically at this point. So we've been having conflicts with England for a long time. And in the very first war, we're allied with Castile, right? We demand Maine because a historical event where basically England agreed to cede Maine back to France. England doesn't. It triggers another war, but it's actually because England made a promise to us and they didn't uphold it. It actually triggers a defensive war. So we're the defenders in the war. That means that all of our allies actually get called in. So Castile is fighting with us against England, and this happens within the first couple of years of the game. So we end up fighting, you know, a pretty long war against them. We ended up, Castile, believe it or not, actually got troops in Pale. They actually landed troops here in Meath. And from there, we had a foothold that we could actually get our troops here. We could cross the Irish Sea, the strait. There's a little strait connection here. So we could walk troops across here into Scotland. And we were sort of fighting the English from here. And eventually, ironically, Castile was the MVP for getting us this foothold. But then they kind of threw their troops away up here. They didn't support us. And we ended up basically, long story short, the French are the French. I mean, we're very powerful. We have more military might than them. Once we got our troops up here into Scotland, we were able to sort of rain down on them from above, and we ended up sort of devastating them. And with that war, we took these two provinces. And this would give us a future foothold on France going forward. We end up going to war with Brittany. Brittany was allied with Guelry, and we take a province from Guelry just again to get a foothold up into this area up here. And then also a strategic foothold here. And then we also took some bits from Brittany. Now this war right here, we could see that we took a bunch of land back from England. This was land that was rightful French land. So we were able to get that on the cheap in a reconquest war. So we gathered that back up. We're starting to look a little bit more like France. One of the tricky things is the Papal State, of course, we're a good Catholic nation. The Papal State has actually grabbed this bit here in Provence, and we're going to have a mission to take this, but we're allied with the Papal State, and we're enjoying all the benefits of being allied to the Pope. So we actually are going to like not be able to get this done for a while here. We go to war with Burgundy. We ended up demanding Holland, these two provinces that sort of make up Holland. And one of the one of the cool things that happened was right after this, it was actually amazing that we demanded Holland and not any of the land here. That was actually just crazy because we ended up getting all this land here. You can see all this land here. In fact, Burgundy doesn't even exist anymore. This is Castile because the Burgundian inheritance fired after the war. I think they were at war with Austria too. So if the leader of Burgundy dies during wartime, triggers the Burgundian succession, or the Burgundian inheritance. And we ended up getting a lot of land back. I think we ended up getting about 7 or 8 provinces here. We had already demanded Holland, which would have gone to Castile in this particular situation. It would have gone to Spain, Castile. But instead, we had already demanded this, and then we ended up getting all this for quote-quote free, which is really, really crazy. So now Burgundy is gone, but Castile is sort of boxing us in a weird way, and we're allied to Castile at this point in time. The other thing that's going on is 1484, we're about to be touching down here in the Caribbean. We can see that Castile is just barely touching down in Brazil. We have the Portuguese are making a move in Africa rather than going to South America. Here we go. Boom. We have Saint Martin. We have Saint Martin, which I think actually historically was French. That's actually kind of funny. We go to war with England again. They're allied with Thomond. We take a province from Thomond to give us an access point to Scotland. So now we can attack all of the Irish miners, and we can also attack Scotland. We're also beating up England continuously. We're just warring England as much as we can because nobody cares, right? England's so far away, nobody cares. Nobody cares. We're getting some other little strategic points here. We also got Oldenburg, it looks like. And again, we're just sort of creeping our way up into the Baltic here for all the juicy trade power there. Looks like we actually took some provinces from Savoy as they sort of get eaten alive by everybody else. So we can check that we are colonizing in the Caribbean now. Things are going good. We're trying to prioritize, like we have, I think this is basically Havana. So the centers of trade, right? We have the 2 centers of trade that we're focusing. We also went down and snagged the Gold Coast because that's going to be a center of trade as well, and the Cape. So we're sort of like not preventing Portugal from doing their thing, but just kind of like taking the really juicy provinces before Portugal can get those. We do a lot of warring up here. We're just constantly warring in the British Isles. And we take Scotland, but we release Geldum as our nation, a releasable nation from these bits here. We can release Geldum, and we can feed them land. So we're going to be feeding Geldum land so that it's going to be cheaper for us to... Basically, we get to spend diplomatic power instead of administrative power. Denmark has integrated Norway. England is not colonizing because we're beating them up so much. They can't afford to colonize. They literally can't pay for colonists. I don't even know if they've even taken exploration ideas at this point. So we're grabbing Canada. We're grabbing sort of the 13 colonies area, which ends up being French Florida. We're grabbing Mexico. We're grabbing Louisiana. We're making all of these colonial nations here. And we're sort of locking all that up. Caribbean's actually self-sufficient at this point. They're growing on their own. Lots of things kind of going on here. Not so much here. Mostly we're just kind of beating up the British Isles over and over and over again. At one point, we actually got a noble disaster. The nobles actually tried to rise up against us. That was interesting. We beat up Portugal. Okay, here we go. We beat up Portugal for the first time. I think at this point, we are no longer allied with Castile, and we're beating them up a little bit. We're taking a lot of this African land that the Portuguese have, and we're sort of like trying to cut them off, too. We're kind of trying to seal off this little bit right here. It looks like Castile actually grabbed that before us. It's kind of a bummer. Because blue looks a lot better than that sickly yellow. It looks like Castile has actually integrated Naples. Because they had a PU, they have a PU over Aragon and Naples. It's only a matter of time before they potentially can form Spain. We are warring Denmark. We're getting bits out of Denmark up here. We also, okay, something just happened here. A couple things have happened. One, we ended up getting a PU over Hungary. It's hard to see that, but we actually have a personal union over Hungary. We got that through a royal marriage. Their leadership died, and we ended up fighting. I think we fought Austria for the privilege to seize basically the Hungarian throne. The other thing that's going to go on here is we actually ended up fighting. I'm actually trying to think, how did we end up getting the... I honestly can't tell you for sure. I think Denmark might have actually had this province. Either Denmark or Sweden might have had this province. When we were fighting Denmark, we might have taken this province and we released Novgorod. So Novgorod is our vassal right now. And we're giving them back their land because Russia at this point, or Muscovy, basically conquered Novgorod early in the game. So we're giving all that back to Novgorod. Because what we are trying to do this game, I haven't even mentioned this yet, guys. What we're going for right now with France, our main goal at this point, we realize that our main goal is to become better than Napoleon, okay? And for that, we need Vienna. We need Berlin. And we need Moscow, okay? So we are working towards those. So Novgorod, our vassal here, is within range of Moscow. So we're going to use Novgorod to go to war with Russia to take Moscow. And once Novgorod has Moscow, we'll integrate Novgorod so that it's part of our land, so that we can get credit for the achievement. Here, Vienna, you can see, is right next to Hungary. Hungary's our personal union, so we will definitely be enjoying that. If we go back over here, oh, this is interesting. Yeah, Castile we were having a race here for California, the colonial nation of California. We were having a race to see who would do it first, because what happens is if a Catholic nation colonizes an area first, they get basically the blessing from the Pope. The land is the church basically gives the land to that nation. They were there first to sort of prevent, the Catholic nations from warring each other unnecessarily. So it was a race to get the colonial nation in California against Castile. We ended up going to war with them to sort of guarantee that we would get it by just basically taking all of their land in this area. During that war, we also grabbed their land here. We also grabbed Seville, which is a huge trade center. We also grabbed Bermuda. So when we fought Castile, we grabbed all that stuff. Now we're working on French Alaska. The other thing that's interesting, we went through the court and country disaster. Spain has now formed. We went through the court and country disaster. We can see that Granada is actually doing pretty well. Granada, of course, usually starts here and gets destroyed by Castile, but they're doing just fine because they had a long-term alliance with the Ottomans, but I think they've lost that in recent years. So we went through court and country, which is an interesting disaster that can boost our absolutism. So one of the things we did in this campaign was to really gung-ho our absolutism. And that basically just meant that we got tons of rebellions constantly that we had to fight through. Some of the other things going on here is the Netherlands formed. So all this land that Castile had up here actually became the Netherlands. And we've been dealing with rebels here because we have some Dutch land, right? And there's a lot of unrest there, so we're constantly fighting those. We integrated Hungary, and we actually went to war with Austria to grab Vienna and some of these other provinces here. So we have Vienna. Now we have Berlin. We just went to war with Brandenburg. We've taken Berlin. We've integrated Novgorod, and we have Moscow. And you can see that the timeline has ended. We have ended. This is where we're at. At one point, when we went to Denmark, we ended up basically full taking the Norway, sort of the rightful Norwegian land. We never did get Provence. Which is kind of hilarious. I was trying to diplomatically vassalize them at one point. So this is our France. Pretty dang good. If we were going to continue on, we probably shouldn't have integrated Novgorod. We probably should have continued to feed them, right? Make them bigger and bigger and bigger and have them become more of Russia and then integrate them. We could have used Hungary to continue to grab land from the Ottomans, and then we could integrate them later, and that would be cheaper for us. But it is a very nice. We have spread. It's a little bit of border war, but for the most part, we have spread the French blue very nicely. We at this point we have pretty much all of sort of Western Africa, except for this little bit here that I think we forgot about when we last went to war with Spain. We're also working on Australia, so we actually have a pretty strong colonial Australia here too. Castile basically has South America, but we have all of North America. There are no Europeans in North America, including the Papal State, except for, wait a second, I just noticed. We got the Netherlands up in here, which is actually kind of interesting because we could actually just take the land from them, and that would almost be as efficient as colonize. That's almost more efficient than us colonizing it ourselves. But we have a very healthy. We can see French Mexico, French Louisiana, French Florida, French Canada, California, and Alaska, and these will all continue to grow and sort of fill this entire space. We're sort of warring the natives as well, sort of eliminating them as best as we can. But we're not. This campaign was never meant to optimize every second of every minute, right? For the most part, we kind of just chilled out. We stayed Catholic, which was kind of fun because we were sort of playing the Pope game. Although we did have the Curia controller a few times. Not as many times as I would have hoped. We have tons of subjects, but these are mostly either trade companies. Like we have trade companies here in the Ivory Coast. We have trade companies in the Cape. Trade companies over in these regions. And of course, we have the colonial nations in North America. That's mostly what we're seeing here. The actual subjects that we had, of course, were Geldum, Novgorod, and also Hungary. But we have since integrated all of those into our proper nation. So those are all part of our nation now. Our economy is insane. The economy is doing amazingly. We have basically so much money we don't know what to do with it. We have so many PowerPoints we don't know what to do with it. Although actually we could actually tech up right here. So we could just for fun we can get these techs up. So we're well ahead on tech. We're getting these technologies very easily. We're developing our land quite a bit. We spawned colonialism in our own home country, which is kind of interesting. We're waiting. Manufacturers are about to spawn in a few years, and then Enlightenment will spawn in the year 1700. The nation is pretty stable, but we just did a bunch of warring. We just did a bunch of warring in northern Germany, so where we were sort of sealing off the Baltic. We're kind of doing this thing where we're sort of taking a lot of land along the Baltic. This idea that like the northern Europe will be ours, and that no one will have ships up here by us. That was kind of like something we're kind of going for. But I think at this point we are better than Napoleon. We can go to the achievement tab here and go to the bottom and see that we are indeed... Are we not... Well, we got the achievement last time. I don't know. When I loaded up the game, it was weird because it kind of rolled us back a bit. I had to actually move forward. I don't know why it's not saying... Because I'm not even seeing the achievement here at all. Am I blind? Not sure what happened there, but we did earn the achievement in the last episode. We did earn the achievement. We have the achievement. But yeah, we basically have unlimited prestige, unlimited... We also... Let's look at military really quick here. We can look at our armies. We have the highest force limit in the world. Nope, sorry, that's a lie. We're 3 behind Ming. But we have 200,000 manpower. They have none. They have 100,000 mercenaries. We do not. We have a standing army that is 300,000 strong, which is insane. We have 100% army professionalism. And we have pretty high discipline. We have 20% discipline, the highest in the world. We have 6.35 morale, the highest in the world. So we're doing really, really well. There's no doubt about it. In fact, our tradition is actually pretty low too. If that was higher, then we'd have even more morale. There's a lot of ideas. Let's just take a look at the ideas as the final thing. We went aristocratic. At the time, it seemed like a really good idea. There's some nice little benefits in here for sure. Some nice little things in the... It was fun going aristocratic. We ended up going exploration as our second idea group, which was very thematic because France does colonize historically. Administrative ideas and then into influence ideas. That's a fantastic combination. And then we also started going quality ideas to make our troops even stronger fighting troops. And we could, we still have a lot of time left in this campaign. So for the most part, we completed a lot of the objectives, but we did not actually follow this line of objectives, which basically has us going into Italy. We didn't do that. We more went north. Instead of going down into Southern Europe, we more went into Northern Europe, into Germany. If we zoom out a little bit, we can see all the little specks of blue here, all the important centers of trade. I think we have all of the important centers of trade in the English Channel. We have most of the land in the English Channel too. However, we actually we never got Lübeck or Bremen. Those are the 2 bits that we did not get. However, regardless, we still have a 75% trade power in the Lübeck node. We're making just insane amounts of money. We're collecting 200 ducats from trade from the English Channel. We're pulling trade. We have 13 merchants. We're pulling tons of trade from all these other areas and the surrounding bits. Is all funneling into the English node, which is really cool. So thank you so much, everybody. That was our France campaign, sort of a beginner playthrough. We took it slow. We had a lot of fun with it. France is one of my favorite nations. One of my favorite nations. Tomorrow is the Dharma release. Dharma DLC is coming out tomorrow. Hopefully, I plan to do a campaign with that. And I think every campaign we do on the channel is going to be heavily commentated and very much like... It's going to be very, very much, sort of for beginners. Not like complete beginners, but like, people that are newer to the game. I'm newer to the game. I'm not an authority enough to explain the game at a high level. So I just play from a thematic perspective. I play from a role-playing perspective. And I think that's how we did this. We did a lot of fun stuff just because it sounded fun. We didn't optimize everything. That's okay. We still got the achievement that we were going for. It still was a massive success. Our France is amazing. And we could leverage this. The game still goes on for another 200 years. We could leverage this. I guarantee we could take over all of Europe if we wanted, with ease. With ease from this position. So, but we don't really have to, but we could, you know. But I think we've accomplished our goals, so I will see you guys in the next campaign.